Hello, today my guest is Linda. She is the founder of Ultimate You Coaching. Linda, thank you for joining me today, and please introduce yourself and the company.
Sure. Linda Kneidinger. My company is Ultimate You Coaching. I'm certified in life and health coaching. I really sort of say that I do personal coaching or mindset coaching. Coaching is a very broad, nebulous term. I really end up working with people on their thoughts and how to create a thinking environment that best supports their goals and their success.
I was really excited when I saw that you did coaching because I have a well, it's really interesting. So I've had some form of coach for I don't know, over 20 years, right? There's either some sort of business coach I have at the time or life coach, or I've been one of those people that is I always have somebody, right? Some sort of coaching going on. So
I think that's incredible. And I do also. And I know that when I can think sometimes that I'm pushing myself or that I'm being honest with myself, and then I'll talk to either some colleagues that I meet with or I'll talk to a coach and they'll ask me some questions. And I've always sort of inevitably, I always feel like, oh man, I am not actually, I'm not actually being honest with myself. Or you're right. I had set that goal and I think that I'm not heading towards it for reasons other than I'm actually admitting to. And so it's great to have. I mean, I have clients I've worked with, maybe not every week, but we've worked together for years. And people will ask, like, well, how many weeks, when you talk to a new client, how many weeks do you work with people? Well, I'd like to work with you for at least 12 weeks because there is sort of a trajectory that people go through where it takes some time to open up to some ideas. But if you're really open to being honest with yourself and having someone reflect with you what they see you saying or thinking or doing, there's no limit to having someone like that to check in with and help you see where you are in your life, honestly.
right, yeah, no, I mean, I think it's been great, and I know some people are maybe they're not as avoidant to it as they are like therapy because I know a lot of people are, they hear the word therapy, and I don't know why there's a stigma attached to that, but there is. And but I guess I always tell people it's just imagine them as a teacher, right? And somebody who can see things that are hard for you to see, or maybe you can't see at all. It's another perspective. And obviously if somebody's doing coaching, then they're probably good at coaching, right? So they're probably good at finding these things and making you aware and providing solutions.
Let's hope.
Well, supposed to be, right? It's
Right.
the theory. And and you so tell me about your book.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah.
Um, well, I'll give you a little bit of my background. Just I sort of always give the same story, but my interest in the brain and in how it influences and impacts our lives started way back in high school. And I was a high school athlete. And I knew that a lot of the struggles I had, it wasn't my actual physical performance. It was my thoughts. But this was back in the 80s, the 1980s, and sports psychology wasn't really a common thing yet. And so I had coaches who would say things like, you need to concentrate more or you need to think harder. And I didn't know exactly what I was doing wrong, but I did have a sense that like thinking harder and concentrating harder when you're in performance, when you're competing, was the absolute wrong tip. And so that got me on this interest area. I was very fortunate that my undergrad university, I went to University of Pennsylvania, had a neuroscience program. Again, this was sort of also cutting edge. Neuroscience as an undergrad program was very rare at the time. And so with between studying neuroscience and some of my own research, flow at the time was really the only concept that sort of touched on that when you actually sort of cease thinking very consciously and you're really just performing and we can enter flow states in so many different ways. I often enter flow states weeding. It's such a mindless activity, but I'll go outside and I'll weed and my mind will relax. So when you're performing, when you're competing in sports, you perform best when you are entering that flow state where you're really letting your motor neurons control your actions versus really consciously thinking about what you're going to do next. That's great for practice, not for performance. So that sort of began my journey. And then I got a couple graduate degrees in psychology. I worked in different aspects of psychology. I took a break for a while when my children were younger. And when I wanted to get back into work, coaching had become a thing, not as big as it is now. This was early 2000s, maybe like 2010. And I wanted to work with adults. And like you just said about therapy, I wasn't sure I wanted to get a therapy degree. I really wanted to sort of harness back into this whole mindset idea and how we can use our minds, how we can harness our thoughts to help us reach our goals, to help us live the life we imagine for ourselves. That's why I got involved in coaching. A lot of my clients are middle-aged people who are facing some sort of transition, maybe a work change, some burnout, a change in leadership roles at work and not feeling competent at them, a lot of confidence issues. And I still work with athletes. I love working with athletes. Athletes understand that building mental skills requires practice, just like building your athletic skills. But I got to this point where I felt like, gosh, I've developed all these little mental tricks and challenges and different ways to help my clients sort of shift their thinking to something different, something that they hadn't really thought of before. And it's awesome. And it's great for my clients. And it's such a joy to watch somebody slowly have that aha moment and start to try something new and like, wow, oh my gosh, this has opened up such possibilities for me. But that's one-on-one and it's a little slow. And I have lots of friends who know I'm a coach and they say like, oh my gosh, I'd love to do coaching, but I know they're not going to do coaching. It's hard. You have to be willing to sit with another person and be vulnerable. It takes time and it takes money. And so I thought if I could get some of these strategies down in a book, it would help me reach a larger audience. So this is like really brand new. This is the very first, at the moment, this is the only physical copy of this book as it is being put up on Amazon right now. But the structure of the book is super simple so that it's so accessible for anybody. And so the book is every week, there's one entry. And it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to read. And every week follows the same format. I share a little story either about my personal life or something a client experienced, or even something I saw in a movie or read in a book that kind of captures one of those very typical human experience problems that most of us experience, but for a good reason. Like there's a good reason we have these problems. Parts of our brain are still really caught up in a more primitive survival mode, and it can really hold us back in modern day life. So I give a little story, and then I explain how the psychological principle in that story, like why does it happen to us? What is it meant to do? And then I offer a little mindset switch or a little challenge or a little activity that's super simple that you can try that week. You can find an opportunity or create an opportunity to create a scenario, a situation where you could give this a little try and see how it works. And again, they're super easy because the whole point is I want you to be successful. I want you to try it. I want you to see like, oh, that felt a little different. I could probably try that again. I could do that again tomorrow. And to notice when these opportunities come up, and I try to make the challenges sort of catchy and memorable so that it will be easy to remember a different way of showing up. And you show up a different way a couple times and it certainly starts to become a habit. Before you know it, it's your go-to way of showing up and you're not getting in your way as much as you used to.
Wow. That's very interesting. So just so I understand clearly, you basically have, and what's the frequency? Did you say daily?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay. So, and then there's basically an action and then
Call it your challenge for the week. So I sort of challenge you to try something different.
and then
And
is
then you have a week to explore with it, play with it.
right. So then is there somewhere? I guess the reason I'm visioning this because I had a book. This was a totally unrelated thing. It's called Everyday Dharma. But anyway, it was similar. There's an action assignment every day. Then there's like a little space where you write in the book and kind of. Is it similar to that or?
Yep, I do. I have after each week, there is a notes
Well, okay,
page. I mean, the notes maybe aren't so much for reflection, although I do say sort of in the introduction, when you read each entry, if something comes up, I mean, those our initial reactions to things are very informative. They tell us where we're resisting or where we're defending ourselves. So it's great to sometimes just jot down, like, what was my initial reaction? I love when I share a new challenge or an activity, a new way of thinking with a client, and they feel very comfortable saying to me, like, you're nuts. That's ridiculous. There's no way, like, that is the absolute opposite of the way you should. If anyone's worked with a coach, that should is a terrible word. Nothing should be anyway, but I love it when a client challenges me like that. The world absolutely should be like this, and you are saying this, and you're nuts.
yeah.
And that's a great thing. Okay, great. Let's put a bookmark on that one, and we'll come back to that later as maybe we need to soften into that one a little.
Well,
So yeah, catch your initial thoughts on the notes page, and maybe jot down a note, like, if you try it, what happened? Did it feel different? Did it feel awkward? Did it feel freeing? Did you like it? Do you think I'm crazy? That's okay. You can think I'm crazy.
well, yeah. I mean, it sounds very interesting. You're making me want to read it. It does. It's yeah. It does. It sounds. I mean, I love reading, and I don't read fiction. If I'm reading something that I want to learn from, right? So
I'm the same. I have just recently pushed myself to dabble in a little fiction, but there's so many amazing things, so many new perspectives to read. I love getting it all.
right, yes, I agree. And well, and it's I don't know. I think that's a huge part of what humans are meant to do, right? Of this evolving and expansion, and like, you can't do that without learning and reading, right? So
Absolutely. They say, the analogy of a tree or anything in nature, it's either growing or it's dying. There's really no stagnation. So if you're stagnating in life, you're probably actually dying. And why not thrive instead, as for the time you have here?
yeah, no, yeah, I love that. I love that saying. I haven't heard that, but I agree with it. Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. So is it for sale now or not yet?
It should be. It is submitted to Amazon, and it's in the final review phases. Um, we're actually meeting on August 18th. I would say by August 20th, it should be up.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yep.
well, I'm gonna get it.
If you do read it and you find something that you think Linda's crazy, I do expect you to email me and say, like, you're nuts. Week 13 was crazy.
It's just making me more and more curious. Well,
Curiosity is good.
well, and I think it's good to you. I won't lie. One of the things that really intrigued me about it is I think it's really good to get to do things that make you uncomfortable,
Absolutely.
and it sounds like there's going to be some of that.
And it's nothing, I've for a long time, like, getting out of your comfort zone was the pop psych thing. And then I had read an interesting article that had said, always being out of your comfort zone is not great for you either. So, like, there's a time and a place for the comfort and calm of a comfort zone. But when we live there, it's kind of like negative emotions. There's a time and a place for feeling frustrated and angry. But when we decide to live there, and rather than move through, that's where we start having a problem.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think I would want to be uncomfortable the majority of the time. So But I do like challenging myself, and there's one that we were just talking about last week because some people I work with. So I've been doing this thing of I've never been very outward with my emotions, right? As I mean, I don't have a problem, people I'm close to and talking about that, and they see kind of a different me, I guess, and I don't know why that is and why. So I've been doing a thing where I've been really, I don't know if you've seen Elf, the movie Elf,
Yes.
and how he's gets really excited. He's like, "How are you doing?" And he puts his hands down his legs, and I know that's very over the top, but I've been doing that, and people are wondering what's wrong with me, but I've been because it does make me uncomfortable, and I'm not saying I want to be that animated, um, but that's just something it made me think of. So,
How does it feel to you when you do it?
it's I mean it's uncomfortable. It's not. I mean, they got entertainment out of it, and I laughed obviously because it's very out of character for me. But yeah, no, it's I guess uncomfortable is the only thing I can use to describe it, and I don't know why that is. Because I'll do it with my daughter, or I'm just different around people that I know well. So and yeah, I am more introverted, but yeah, I don't know what that's from, but
Okay, well, I will squeeze in a plug for my coworker. I have this little character I call Anxious Mouse, and when people are struggling with something, I'll tell them, well, this is the voice in your head, and it's a mouse. So mice have very basic survival concerns. Um, so if we listen to him all the time, obviously he's going to hold us back. He doesn't know much about life beyond mouse life. But there's always like a real good kernel of truth in there somewhere. And so when my clients are struggling with someone, I say, okay, well, let's sit back and let's listen to that voice. Let's like, what is Anxious Mouse saying to you? And let's appreciate that and thank him because he's got a real concern for us, but probably it's not an actual real danger. And so we listen to him and we thank him, and then we send him off to his burrow and we think about like, does this really a danger? And is there maybe a different way of showing up that inches me a little bit closer to the way I'd like to be, or that would help me in some way without getting into an actual danger situation? Like I would just be curious when that happens, if just sort of catch that voice and like, gee, what is my anxious mouse saying to me in this moment? Like, what is the thing he thinks could happen, whether it's embarrassment, loss of not knowing the right thing to say, loss of connection or friends, or so just a little freebie exercise there for you to think about.
yeah, you're already making me think. I was trying to think back. I'm gonna have to do it more in the moment, I think. But I was trying to think, geez, what am I thinking about that time, those times? But
It's definitely an in the moment thing. But
right,
I applaud, like I love the activity itself. It's sort of when someone's having trouble acting in a certain way, we always say, well, it's much easier to like depersonalize it. Well, what would someone who's already like this, what would they do? So you kind of took that extreme funny example of Elf, like what would he do? Okay, I'll do that. And if you explained that to somebody, if anyone looked at you weird and you explained that to somebody, like most people would think that's the funniest thing ever and totally appreciate it. And the people who don't, like, well, they've clearly got their own issues.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was comedic at the very least. So, um, can you share a bit about your role and how it fits in the bigger picture at Ultimate You Coaching? I mean,
Sure.
obviously,
Well, I'm a one woman show, and that's rough. I was just sharing with my children the other day when I had one of my children, I had some book work to do, and not, the writing is, well, I'm not gonna say easy, but the writing at least is like representing my purpose, what I do. But I am self-published. So then it was like I have to learn this whole publishing industry, and it's scary as can be because what if what if I didn't do it right? And what if it shows up and it's not perfect? And what if I have a technical glitch? And somehow the book doesn't show up or doesn't show up the way it's supposed to. Amazon bans it. I don't know, like a million concerns. And I was saying to my family that the advantage of being a solopreneur is I can work from anywhere. I can set my own schedule. I can block off a week in my calendar. I have great flexibility. The downside is I don't have tech support. I don't have someone to sit with and say, hey, can I just, can we quick take 10 minutes and let you share what I'm thinking and you sort of brainstorm this with me? It takes a lot more intentionality to connect with another professional if I want a little feedback or just some camaraderie. And, you don't realize until you're running your own business all the little pieces that you have to attend to. And you want to have a professional appearance to people. So you do, to some extent, need to keep up with all of these other, support roles. But anytime I'm spending in a support role is time I'm not writing or time I'm not working with clients or reading, so that I can expand my toolkit. So it is a real balance to, and social media. Oh my gosh, like, do I post? Do I not post? So it is a balance of making sure I'm always sort of catching myself and asking, am I putting my time into the things that are most important for the business that I want to have?
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? Because a lot of us don't do that and spend time on things that aren't serving the direction that we want to go.
Right. And technology is a gift and a curse. I am inundated with emails every day with people who want to support some aspect of my business. And it's really tempting. So I try to delete them right away. So I just don't even get tempted. But I read them every now and then. And it can be tempting. Wow, yeah, I would love someone to manage my social media. I would love someone to make calls and follow-ups and take care of the paperwork. But technology has made it such that it's awesome and easy for someone who knows what they're doing to support you in that way. And it's also really easy for someone who has no idea what they're doing to throw together a program, AI, something where they're supporting businesses, but I don't know that they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of taking the cheap and easy route. And it's really hard to figure out which one of those is true.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the case in most industries, right? Most businesses or services. So yeah. So I think that part with what you're talking about with AI even is probably more difficult because it's new, and I know there are people out there slapping things together and offering them as quality services. So I see that for sure. And that's, so I guess let's talk about that a little bit. So I started, I started playing with AI and just chat GPT and other things originally just for, I guess search engine, replacing search engine stuff. And just cause I was impressed. And, that led into, I sold my business earlier this year. So I've started and scaled and sold multiple businesses, and my last one was earlier this year, and I was starting to make a chat bot for that business, and just so it could function 24/7, and book consultations. And anyway, that was so fascinating and fun and frustrating, but it got me very interested in AI and how it can be implemented into businesses to fix bottlenecks, ultimately, right? And to cut admin staff. So it's, for example, on average, it's able to cut admin work down by 60% if it's done properly. But what I've been doing is it's bespoke. It's tailored specifically for that business and that person. So it's not it's that are tools that are literally going to be built for that business. It's not something that exists that is being offered, if that makes sense. So,
Absolutely. That's amazing.
but yeah, it's really cool. So, it's been sort of like right now. I tattooed for decades, and that was the first one that I started building, was a full CRM and front and back end, point of sale and scheduling, and a phone agent and a chat bot. And so the phone agent can talk to people after hours and book consultations. And anyway, and that's how I went down that rabbit hole. But
That's so interesting that you went from a very hands-on, creative, artistic career, and then by virtue of the way you decided to make that take away all those administrative jobs, you ended up focusing then on sort of like, how do you create administrative support for other companies?
yeah, well, and I really liked, I guess the main thing I was trying to solve originally was how can we capture these lost potential bookings and consultations, after hours and on weekends, like times we were closed. That was the main motivator, or, trying to find a solution for that. And then I just had so much interest in it. And then eventually I found out that there is no AI, right? That we don't have the technology for AI, but they're calling it AI, but by definition, it's not. It's these programs that have to be taught, so we're teaching it about the person's business and, their policies and whatever other information that we need to teach it to be able to handle, clients and customers and, patients or whatever it's being used for.
I think that's such a great use of it. And I definitely, this is not something that's a flash in the pan. This is something that's for sure here to stay. It's definitely going to be a challenge for us as humans to figure out, or to limit. It's so easy to start to rely on it or over rely on it. And I use it too. I used to just use it to sort of like, I could use 5 articles on this topic, find me 5 articles. And I have a weekly newsletter, and now I'll maybe put some paragraphs in that just, I can't quite craft this right. Or in book promotion, I'm not book promoting yet, but I'm working real hard with Chat GPT on, what is good copywriting, and what does this look like? How would you design ads for different platforms? And that's a great, so fantastic at all of that. And like you said, it's really only what we put in.
Right.
So that's where I start to, AI in the wellness space is interesting because it's fantastic at taking data and looking for trends. I love it in the medical world, analyzing scans and picking up on differences in scans much earlier than humans are currently noticing these trends. But then I was just reading an article recently about therapy. Should AI be doing therapy? Part of me feels like, hey, humans make mistakes in therapy and coaching too, because we all have our biases. But AI does have biases. AI picks up on trends and data, but it's only as good as what you put into it. And I've found it I was looking up a therapy that had cell in the name of it. And so it was also, I was asking what type of training, or where do you get this kind of training? I was curious if this was like a legitimate thing. And it was giving me medical cell, it was giving me blood cell, and it was giving cell in the terminology where I meant it. So we're definitely on that sort of cusp of, where is it super easy for it to help us in our businesses, and finding someone who's creating it like you are, very bespoke, very specific, so that it's really, you don't feel like you're interacting with somebody who's not getting what you're saying, that it's clearly tailored to the environment, but then also not over relying on just, I'll give it every question I have and then just roll with the answer because it's a computer and it's smart and it knows everything.
Right. No, yeah, I agree. I don't think I don't think it should be looked at or meant to replace, right? It's to enhance and I guess, provide solutions to, freeing up, for example, yeah, freeing up some admin time. Maybe that person can do something else that's, maybe more important to the business or that practitioner. I did a growth plan last week, and this was a very interesting business because he has combined like entrepreneurship, like high level business people with health and wearables, and it's a very interesting concept. But yeah, everything can be created, as far as dashboards and like you said, note takers for these practitioners and creating treatment plans and obviously all of that is again what it's been taught, so there is extensive teaching that needs to be done, but I think it's really cool and it's amazing what it can do and how fast it can do it. So
That is so true.
yeah.
For a small business owner, I mean, I don't have $100,000 to throw at marketing, and I don't market usually. I'm mostly a word of mouth. Really all a word of mouth business. Do I want to stay word of mouth? Maybe. I mean, it certainly does help weed out. It certainly helps it make it easy to get a certain kind of client who already has some idea of who I am or what I am about. But now that I've gotten into authorship, I probably do need to market. Everything is oversaturated. Social media is oversaturated. Ads are oversaturated. So, right, as an independent entrepreneur, I don't have $100,000 to throw at marketing, but I really appreciate when I chit chat with ChatGPT as my children are in their 20s. And so they look over my shoulder at the way ChatGPT and I interact and they just laugh, like, it's not your best friend, mom. Well, I'm teaching it how to interact with me. But I appreciate, I learn a lot. It's like having a lesson with somebody who is good at marketing. It makes it a lot easier for me to at least enter at a certain level that I probably would avoid on my own because of all the back information I would have to learn. And that's not my zone of genius.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree, and that's actually how I got into what I got into. It was through AI and this through starting with Chat GPT and then and Claude and I started doing coding, and anyway, that's literally how I was started to learn about it was with with AI. So
So here's a question for you. Being a tattoo artist is very creative. Do you have an outlet in your life right now where you're getting that creativity, or do you actually find that what the work you're doing because you are creating taps into that same need, that same talent?
I think 100% this taps into it because you also you do these calls, like for example, if somebody is interested, we do a discovery call, and I have a note taker, and then I'm going over all the notes, and yes, you're using like how what could we create here to fix these bottlenecks, so I do think it's very creative of what can we make tailored to this person and this business. So yes, I do feel like it meets that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I think it's fascinating. But I'm going to shift gears a little bit on you.
Okay.
I'm wondering what your typical day looks like.
My typical day's all over the place. Once upon a time, when I first started coaching, it was really my day was seeing clients. Um, and mostly by Zoom. Uh, we had chit chatted earlier, and I'm originally from the East Coast, and I know people from various parts of my life, various jobs I've had before, and they all sort of know that I have a background in psychology, and they felt comfortable with my competence. I mean, the word coach can sort of be like anyone can be a coach. How do I know you're a good coach? But they knew me from different parts of my life. And so when I started coaching and I let people know I was starting coaching, and again, this was pre-COVID, I had clients from all over the country very quickly. And so at the time, I had to teach everyone how to use Zoom so that I could have clients all over the country. And then, so COVID was actually a great thing for people who wanted to be able to work through Zoom, because everyone learned Zoom really fast. And that's made it even easier to have clients that are geographically dispersed. So I used to just see a lot of clients. Then I got more into writing, so I needed some time to write. A whole different story is last year, and I'm your stereotypical like healthiest friend. You know, I'm super physically active. I run, I do weights and yoga. I always have, and love veggies. Try to be low stress. Try to be mindful. Last summer, I was diagnosed with lung cancer, and yeah, I never smoked. So I learned a lot about lung cancer. I had to slow down a little bit, and I really took my core coaching practice down to my long-term clients, and I was very discerning about who I added, just because I just didn't. I'm not saying I didn't have the energy. I mean, I was up running again and being pretty active pretty quickly, but I'm in my mid 50s. My one child's in college, one's out of college. One of my child who's still in college is a college athlete, and I sort of had that aha cancer moment of we don't know what tomorrow looks like, and so I'm not going to miss a game, and I'm going to make sure I can see friends, and I'm going to make space in my life for the things that really nurture me, and then the rest of the time will be my writing and my clients. So fast forward a year, I still see clients. I probably see about half as many as I used to. And I'm still writing. While this book may be completed, I'm already halfway done. Two others. We'll see where they go. And I write my newsletter for the people who follow along. And I make the most of the time I'm not working to really, again, nurture the relationships that I feel like um, energize me.
All right. Wow, that's I don't know how you find the time to do all that and write books, but that's
Well, and I will say, back to sort of like the cancer in the book, in at the end of the book, I mean, I emailed my editor the final copy the day before I found out.
wow.
So, I sort of added at the very end of the book that, these mindset tips and tricks and shifts might seem like cute little things that make your life a little better, but when you're smacked in the face with a really big potentially life altering event, my doctors all agree. Like, mindset is one of the main things that sets apart who recovers quickly, who gets back into life, and who gets stuck in those wallowing, woe is me, why me mindsets that do not help you heal.
Hmm.
So anyone who thinks, I was already on board fully. Anyone who thinks that your mindset and your thoughts and your beliefs are not important, when you come across something in life where you really need to call on some positivity and some healthy thinking, if you've already built those skills, it's so much easier than trying to build them when you're already down at the bottom of the well.
Right. Yes, especially since what is it? I read this was so many years ago, but they said the average person, I can't remember if it's three or four hundred, has 300 or 400 negative thoughts a day. It was a lot. It was either 300 or 400, and that was shocking to me. And that's just like average, right? That's not.
Right. It's a very large percentage, and it has a name, the negativity bias. But that's, again, that goes back to sort of the survival. A danger is much more impactful in our lives than something positive. Something positive is nice, but a danger could be life threatening. We're sort of programmed. So we're programmed to look for the dangers and to see things with a negative, skeptical perspective. And sometimes that's very helpful, but a lot of the times that just um, makes our life smaller.
Right. Wow. Well, I'm happy everything worked out because
Yeah.
you were able to heal from that, and that's crazy. Now you're the third person I've talked to that has had lung cancer that didn't smoke.
You know, I won't go in the whole thing, but what I've learned is, especially in women, aged like 35 to 45, non-smokers who are physically active, it is shooting up, and nobody knows why yet. And we're not proactively looking for it. Most people, it's either caught by accident or it's caught when it's stage 4 and it's really severe, because you usually don't have symptoms until then. But it's becoming a health crisis, and we're not keeping up with it in terms of being proactive.
Wow, that's crazy. I had no idea. But I mean, it is mind-boggling, I guess, to even hear, somebody who's healthy and doesn't smoke gets lung cancer. So I
To
get,
scare people, trust me, when
yeah,
when people find out I had lung cancer, they're like, how? Like,
right,
what? Everybody wants to know what the thing was. What was the thing?
yeah,
You must have smoked in your teens. You must have lived someplace with pollution. You must have done something.
right. Yes, that's I guess where the logical part goes, right?
Right, right.
But then there's all this other side of things that I guess could be a whole other topic where these different, like genoming and um just, I don't know, is it possible some of this is genetic predispositions
It
or
doesn't run in my family. Cancer doesn't run in my family. I have healthy parents and grandparents who've lived 80s and 90s.
so some
Certainly could be environment. I mean, our environment's changing, obviously, all the time.
so maybe more environmental exposures or toxins.
Could be. Again, it's odd that it's younger women. It's not even like that it's built up over time.
Yeah, that's true because one of them is, yeah, I mean it is a female, and yeah, she was, well, that would have put her in her 30s when she
Yeah.
went through that, and she did live. She has one lung now, but crazy.
So I guess to sort of get way off topic, but my take home lesson from all of that was, when people will say, gosh, you do all the right things and you still got cancer, you must be so irritated. You must be so ticked off. And I'm like, no, I'm not at all ticked off. You do all those great things for health and longevity so that while you're here, you're living in your best possible body. You're able to thrive. And that doesn't mean that you'll never encounter an accident or an illness, but certainly gives you a better chance to fight it, and it makes the time you're here more enjoyable.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I love that perspective because you should be creating the best environment for your body, right? So, to deal with, because we're all going to have things. We're all going to have health challenges and things at some point. You're going to, right? Like it's inevitable. So yeah, why not have the best environment to deal with those challenges? The whole
That's mindset.
yeah. Yes, and I have heard that a lot, like a lot, especially. So I went through this whole Lyme disease thing, and um, a lot of people were giving me advice, and several people gave me, book recommendations for what you're talking about, of like, hey, you really need to be in the right mind space, dealing with this, and because I was told, look, you have this, you have all these things, and like you're gonna die, like you're gonna die if you don't have major, changes and treat these things. And because I don't know how long I'd had that and how long it had been
Yeah, right.
wreaking havoc in my body, right? But that's what was going on, and so it was like the first week was kind of a woe is me thing. I mean, it was only a week, but I did have a week of, and I think you're still, it's just all sinking in, like everything that you just heard and what they had to say. It's just. But after that, I think it was good, and I do think I was positive for the majority of the time, and focused on just getting better and doing the things that I needed to do to achieve that. But what major shifts are you seeing in your industry right now?
Well, what I've seen since I started coaching, the first thing is just that everyone's a coach. The coaching has exploded. I don't, Coaching programs have exploded, coaching certifications have exploded. I could spend all day, every day, getting more certifications to try to legitimize my personal position as a coach. So I understand it makes it really hard for people to know is there a certain criteria, like a doctor, like, okay, well, you have a medical license and you went through training, okay, which doesn't guarantee you're a good doctor, but at least you're trained. Coaching, it's so nebulous, and there are a few organizations that are trying to be at the forefront of certification. Doesn't necessarily, again, mean that you have a good coach or a bad coach or a coach that fits you well. I think the coaching space has just become really hard for a potential client to navigate, to figure out who's the right person, what do I look for, how do I even know this is working, am I getting good advice? And you probably shouldn't be getting a lot of advice. You actually should be doing the work. But
Mhm.
so that's really hard. It's hard. It's just since I started, I've just seen it change so much, and so that's really hard for a coach to try to figure out how to niche yourself so that you stand out, and for a client to figure out where to go. I've also seen technology change. I mean, going back to Zoom, I think that I was probably a little bit less, it was less common to be doing so much coaching on Zoom. You could. I needed to because I had these contacts all over the country. Now, most people can figure out Zoom, so it's technological.
Mhm.
Do you want to meet with someone in person? Do you feel like you're getting the same experience online? And then there's AI. AI has a lot of great places where it can help. It can help fantastically with behavioral modification. There's a lot out there that are connected to Whoops and Fitbits and Apple Watches, and it can take all that data that's being collected and giving you reports and recommendations. And that can be enough. That can work great in concert with a human who's helping you decipher that information, talk about that information. Um, so there's different levels of coaching. You can coach exclusively with a person. You can exclusively have an app. You can merge the two together. And that's another, I think it makes it tough for clients to navigate also. I had several friends who did weight loss apps, and they loved it. It's super convenient and you don't have to talk to a person, and it's kind of on your time. But they also felt like, are they missing out on something? And I think they also felt like they were missing out on sort of that human connection part of it. So these are all things we all sort of have to decide for ourselves what feels most comfortable, and also just make sure that we are using technology and AI together with live coaches in a way that makes the most sense.
Right. Yes, for sure. I agree with that. What do you think that saturation do you think it's impacted your business or growth strategy?
Well, it hasn't impacted my strategy, although it probably should have. um, I think because I still, for my live clients, they're mostly personal recommendation clients, and because I'm not pushing to have such a jam-packed client list anymore, it's all right, because if someone's heard of me, then they might want to at least try me out. Not everyone's a great fit. And I tell people, when it doesn't feel like a great fit on my end, it's not enjoyable. I don't want to feel like I'm forcing you or pushing you, and maybe you're not ready for coaching at all. Maybe I'm just not the right person. Um, but I probably, if I wanted to grow my one-on-one Well, even in speaking, now that I have a book out, I would really like to do some speaking engagements with smaller groups. I really love the dynamic and the energy you get when people get together and talk about these things. I think it feels good to people. One of the best parts about coaching is I get to share with people that nothing they're experiencing is different or unusual. We all think we procrastinate and we're broken. We have a problem and it can be hard to admit. But when I start off by talking about procrastination and all the reasons why it's such a natural thing to do, there's so many ways our brain is sort of wired to favor procrastination. There's like this exhale, like, oh, it's not just me.
Yeah.
And I love to talk about those things in group. There is an energy, like I said, to people together discovering, oh, it's not just me, and then sharing experiences and seeing how we all have a lot of these same shared experiences and how can we overcome them and support each other. So in a saturated market, as I'm increasing my speaking, I will definitely need to be able to clearly communicate who I am, what I specifically do, and who I'm looking to work with, so that it's really easy for people to identify I might be the person for them.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think that's a great approach. And kind of have a better alignment for people that you're looking for, right? And them.
Which is probably a good thing. I mean, it's when there were less coaches, I'm sure a lot of people had coaching with someone who wasn't as good a fit. And with more people, you can really search out the person who's feels like a good fit.
Right. Yes. Yes, I love that. What so speaking of bottlenecks and such, what's working well for you right now and what's been frustrating?
I've never gotten into um, using a funnel to attract potential clients. And it might not be the right thing for me right now, but I can see how if AI had been present earlier in my career as a coach, that would have been super helpful. That was definitely a bottleneck I'd go to trainings and people would be very clear about how to capture the attention of lots of people and then funnel it down to the people who are right for you and you're right for. And that's a lot of work. It's tech. Again, it's programming, it's designing ads. And it just never made it up high enough on my priority list. So I'm not sure it'll have a place for my practice going forward, but it definitely was a bottleneck. It was definitely something that kept me from accessing a broader potential population of client because it felt overwhelming. Again, you go to these trainings and it seems so easy, and then you go to do it and you're like, oh, this is just like
Yeah.
not my, not my thing. Yeah. So figuring out, there's incredible tech out there to help small businesses, and it's taking that tech and taking it from knowing it exists and implementing it. I think that's sort of like that's the space. And it's certainly something that either AI itself or someone like yourself who has a company that's going to help train the AI to do that specific need for you, I think that's something that can really make that much more accessible for a small practice.
Right. Yes, for sure. What so based on that, what metrics are you most focused on improving within your practice?
So right now, since I'd like to shift a little bit into speaking to groups, my metrics are researching groups that I'm a good fit for, approaching groups. I had done this thing way back when I started coaching with my accountability team of coaches, where we had a little bottle that we were supposed to put marbles in for every time someone said no thank you. And the idea was you're not going to get the yes, that sounds interesting unless you're really amassing a lot of no thank yous. So I need to face my own anxious mouse who knows that it's not personal, but also hates to hear no thank you, so that I can scale my metrics where I'm inviting people to have a conversation about whether I'm a good fit for a group, for speaking to their group. I need to be measuring, making sure I'm approaching enough organizations. I'm finding the right organizations and I'm approaching enough organizations. And that's, right. That's a scalable, back to your bottleneck. If you need to get 20 no's for every yes, then that's a lot of time.
Right. Yes, it is for sure. Well, so where do you want to be in the next 6 or 12 months?
I saw myself, that's a perfect coaching question. In 6 or 12 months, I would love to have done some pretty big book launch events, which gets my imposter syndrome fired up, but I'm going to have to be a big girl about it and listen to my anxious mouse and assure him it's okay. And then have a nice steady stream, maybe one talk a week, in addition to my clients, where I'm getting the opportunity to work with groups, small companies, sports teams, and not just promoting the book, but talking about some of these skills, talking about some of these very normal human obstacles we all face, and providing some skills to help overcome them. But then also as an opportunity to promote my book. So if I had a good stream of one a week and my half load of clients and then time for writing, that would be a great, and putting writing in my calendar. I've certainly learned through this experience, writing can't be something that fills in the empty spaces. It has to be a scheduled, it's part of the job.
Right.
You really have to consider that also part of your job, or it doesn't happen.
It seems like it would be very challenging to write a book.
I think I have in the book that I had to use a lot of the strategies in the book to get the book written.
I mean, that would make sense because it just seems like a very complex project. So, but well, with that being said, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything. It was it's always a pleasure, and it's always interesting for me because I learn things every time talking to somebody, and yeah, I appreciate your time in general and sharing everything.
You're welcome. I appreciate your time. I appreciate when they're getting to meet people who are interested in learning about the different modalities and companies that are out there working to help people improve their mental and physical state. So I love listening to the conversations you've had, and you brought out some really interesting things with some of your guests that have me going off to look up, doing research.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So
Yeah, thank you. This was a great time.
yes, I agree. And if you're open to doing something again in the future, then that would be great as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.